and welcome back to another episode of the Minutemen Films Podcast. And welcome back, Nick! His grand return. He's the comeback king. I'm the comeback king! Yeah! How's it going, Nick?
I hate that introduction. I never call me that again. I do not want to be the comeback kid ever again.
Yeah, I'll make sure not to do that. But it's good to have you back, Nick. I just want to say real quick, thanks to Josh for filling in those couple weeks that he was on the MMF pod. I really appreciate it. But now Nick is back, and we can get back to our regularly scheduled program. And what are we talking about today, Nick?
First off, I want to say I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad to be talking about a movie that we both love. And sometimes I feel like we might be the only two people who've ever even seen this movie. But we're talking about Rat Race from the early 2000s. It's both one of our favorite movies for sure.
Yeah, dude. We've been talking about Rat Race since pretty much we became friends. I remember our original radio show, PNN Live, that we used to do at college. We had there was a segment on our show where we were talking about 2000s movies, and you brought up Rat Race. You're like, let's talk about Rat Race. And I was like, all right, we'll dedicate an episode to that. But we never did. And all these years later, here we are.
Literally 7 years later, we are finally doing the promised Rat Race podcast.
Yeah. Do you think there's anybody that was listening to our radio show that's watching this episode?
No.
I don't even know if there are any fans of PNN Live.
We're not fans of PNN Live.
When we did the show too, but like the only way to listen to it was to pull up this browser, and it was really glitchy and it didn't come through with good quality, like the equipment. So we would have been better off just recording it and just reposting it on YouTube. Like we're doing now.
No, for sure. That was such a shitty format to even do anything with, but this is much better, and I'm glad, again, that we're talking about Rat Race, which I wanted to first bring up. I didn't even understand was like a spiritual remake of this movie, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, which you told me about one time, and we actually watched it, I think, a year or two ago, and I love that movie. I can't believe I never even heard about it, but like, yeah, this is a great like spiritual remake, I think.
Yeah, dude. Imagine the balls. You know, there's so many Hollywood movies nowadays that take the name of a past movie and they're just living off the name, you know, crappy remake after crappy remake, just living off the name of the original. Imagine the balls of a Hollywood, you know, producer or whatever to say, let's remake a movie and not use the name. Also, let's make entirely original characters. And it was awesome. It's almost like you don't have to copy and paste to make a movie.
Yeah, no, it's great. They understood the formula, which is get these great actors, these great comedic personalities, and just put them all together, do like some cool stunts, some wacky, wild visuals, and it'll come together to make something fun and enjoyable. And that's something they understood, is like, you don't need the exact same people. Just like get who's good today and let them do it.
Mad, 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 Mad World is one of the greatest movies of all time to this day. I think it might be my favorite movie from the 60s. I've seen it a million times. It's one of the few 3+ hour movies that really never gets boring. There are a lot of movies that are 3 hours that, you know, sometimes you have to watch them in 2 parts. Mad, 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 Mad World's like, here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go, every single scene. Rat Race, I would say, is definitely not as good as Mad, 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 Mad World, but it has its own charm, and we love it so much because there's so many great moments and lines that we constantly quote. Even though it's not as good, it's still a solid win. And there is a reference to Mad, 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 Mad World in Rat Race, something I didn't realize until just, you know, within the past couple of years. There's a random shot where they just show a red, like, 60s Volkswagen Beetle, and they hold on it for a few seconds. So you know the director was trying to show us that Beetle. And obviously it's a reference to Mickey Rooney's Volkswagen Beetle in Mad, 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 Mad World. So I really appreciated that as a Mad World fan.
For sure, that was awesome. And like, I agree. I didn't even grow up with that movie the way you did. Like, you saw both kind of when you were young. I didn't see Mad Mad World until I was like older. And even then, I was like, you know what? I have to acknowledge that this is actually a much better film, especially like for the time. Like the stunts they were doing are fucking nuts, like the helicopter stuff and all that. But for me, yeah, Rat Race is just like a really nostalgic movie for me. So I definitely prefer it, but I can't say it's a better movie personally.
Wait, what helicopter scene are you talking about? Rat Race? I don't remember one in Mad World.
Or were they in an airplane? Mickey Rooney and Buddy Hackett was it an airplane or a helicopter
Oh
they
yeah,
were
yeah,
in?
the airplane. Yeah, 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 yeah. My favorite moment in Mad World, not to get too off topic, is when he destroys the gas station, Jonathan Winters. The gas station's like made of paper. He's like throwing the guys through the wall, punching through the doors. It's just such an over the top scene, and it never gets old. I could rewatch it, rewind it, and rewatch it 100 times in a row, and it's still fun to watch.
I totally agree. I can't wait to rewatch that movie. But while we're here and while we're talking about Rat Race, let's talk about the characters of Rat Race because this movie's got a great set of characters, great actors that were in like a lot of things that we both watched when we were young. And so the first character introduced is Nick Schaefer, played by Breckin Meyer, who's sort of like the straight man of the whole story. He's sort of who you're supposed to like see reacting to all the craziness around him, and then he gets sucked into it too. And I think he's great. I love that character.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't really seen him in other movies too much, or at least I didn't recognize him in other movies. But his character Nick in Rat Race is fantastic. A notable moment that you quote a lot is Nick, it's paper. Take it. I have a plane to catch. Like he's such a straight man that he can't even take a free newspaper. Like he has to be follow the rules at all times.
It's a great character arc, and I remember like we constantly reference that character scenes specifically because his name is Nick and my name is Nick. So like when we actually went to Vegas, we went to the Venetian Hotel and we stupidly tried to find a newspaper stand, which does not exist anymore. There's no newspaper stands at casinos. So just so we could recreate the scene of look, Nick, paper, take it. And I think when we went to the Mohegan Sun specifically,
Yeah, we should
I
have
like
just
went
grabbed
to a
like a
game.
napkin.
But I think when we went to the Mohegan Sun, I went to a gambling machine and I was like, "See, I gambled," and I just watched $20 slip away from me.
It was like the arcade for adults. We were sitting on like a Mad Max arcade machine or something, and we just watched $20 disappear. But we actually went to the Venetian to try and line up shots from Rat Race, and we're probably like the only people in the world to ever have done that. We probably look so stupid. Nick was walking around with the movie on his phone, and I was filming. We were trying to line up shots. We actually did find the staircase where they try and have the fall to get the insurance money, and then we also found the spot in the hallway where Mr. Bean, where Enrico falls asleep. We found that location too. That was cool.
That was awesome, and everything was like so close together too. Like once we found the spot, we were like, "There's the stairs where they fell down," and we're like, "Oh, there's the hallway. There's the big like globe that's like behind them the whole time."
But yeah, Nick is a great character. Um, he does his job very well in the movie, and it's great to see his arc from boring guy to oh, holy shit. I'm in a helicopter with a crazy girl throwing stuff down at her ex boyfriend.
Yeah, that probably leads to one of the best sequences of the movie is because like he meets this girl and she seems like so normal and like almost as straight laced as him, and then she finds out her boyfriend's cheating on her while she's flying a helicopter, and that leads to probably the best like stunt scene in the entire movie where she's fucking chasing him in a helicopter while he's just trying to drive away.
Remember the Limburg part? Sex change. I don't remember sex change. Are there a lot of Are there a lot of female pilots? Well, I should have said at least one if you count Lindbergh.
That guy's got great game. That was such a good line.
So, who's the next character you want to talk about?
The next character introduced is Academy Award winning Cuba Gooding Jr. as the bonehead referee who screwed up the coin toss. Such a random bit of backstory for this character, but it works because it sets up his entire sequence of like events of how he has just a terrible time during the race because he runs into a Dallas Cowboys fan who fucking leaves him stranded in the desert because he screwed over the Cowboys with the coin toss.
Yeah, that's just like such an awesome plot line. You know, you wouldn't think of something like that. Like every movie would probably be like, "Oh, he broke up with his girlfriend. He's having a bad time." And it's like, no, he was a referee for an NFL game, and he fucked up the coin toss, and the world hates him. I think that's just an awesome, like, really quick backstory for him. And I would say he's probably not one of my favorite journeys along the way. I think it peaks with the I Love Lucy bus. I think that's his best scene. But there is no bad character in this movie, but I'd say he's probably not towards the top of the list for me.
I can agree. He's definitely a little more bland as a character, but like the things that happen to him are definitely hilarious. Like like you mentioned the I Love Lucy scene. Like what an outrageous concept of an idea. And it just leads to so many funny bits, like when like the bus like breaks down and like falls aside and he's just like crying and they're like, "You're the best bus driver ever, Owen," and they start like chanting his name with their shrill voices and he's like, "Shut the fuck up."
Let's give a great cheers for Owen, everybody! Owen! Owen!
You know, the movie seemed dedicated to like giving that character the worst time imaginable of anyone in the entire movie, because there's also like a couple deleted scenes with him where like one I'll mention really quickly that I just found out about is like while he's running away from the Lucys, they find out he stole the bus, so they start chasing him down the street. There is a deleted scene where they run into a bus of Desi cosplayers and they're all like, "Hey, Lucy," and then they all get distracted by all the Desis in front of them, and then Owen runs away, and then that leads to another deleted scene where he sees a truck pulling a house on it, and he just jumps into the house and inexplicably runs into Diamond Dallas Page and his wife Kim, and Diamond Dallas Page fucking beats the shit out of him.
I think they should have kept the Desi thing in, but the DDP scene makes like zero sense. And if you go back and watch the movie, it's really obvious the deleted scenes because we just see him with the fucking Lucys, and then he just appears on a horse at the end. There's like nothing in between. We just cut from one reality to the next. I guess there was just so much shit going on. You're so distracted that it didn't really matter too much. But it was very clear there was something missing in that storyline.
No, I agree, because I rewatched the DDP scene and I'm like, this is not even funny. It's just him like saying wrestling phrases. It's like it was made by like a comedy legend. Like I have no idea if Jerry Zucker is like a big wrestling fan or whatever, but it's just such a random shoehorned wrestling scene where he's just doing all his signature moves and like talking like a wrestler and just beating the shit out of Cuba Gooding Jr.
Dude, what did we talk about early 2000s and shoehorning a wrestling scene into every movie? They tried with Rat Race. It just wasn't good enough to keep it in, but they sure as hell tried.
I think it would have been cool if it was like a thing that led to just more craziness. Like if they run into DDP and he's like, "Oh, you're racing for $2 million? I want $2 million." If like just more and more people get added on, like with the guy who makes the change keys and like Vicky the prostitute, if just more and more people get involved, I think that could have been funny. But it was just a one-off scene.
Yeah. I mean, that's a trope that happened with Mad, 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 Mad World, too. By the end of the movie, even the cab drivers were helping them find the treasure.
For sure. So the next characters introduced at the beginning of the movie are they're definitely my favorite characters. I think they're your favorite characters too. It's Seth Green and Vince Villouf as the two brothers. And I just love these guys because they're the two worst con men of all time. They're just constantly trying to come up with like schemes to make money. And I love that Seth Green wears this like white fedora the whole time because he thinks he's like a crime boss or something, but they're just terrible at everything they do.
Yeah. Both of my favorite scenes of the movie involve them and stunts, and the physical comedy and just the wide shots of what's happening is just so funny. They knocked it out of the park. They have a great chemistry back and forth. All the dialogue is great. All the physical comedy is great. My favorite scene is probably the one where they're chasing the cow. And then there's this one shot where Seth is running in front of the car and it's on cruise control. And his brother's on the hood like, because he has the lip ring. He's like screaming, Dwayne! And then also the scene where they're at the airport and they're attacking the tower and the classical music's playing bum 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 bum, and then he's like, as he's climbing the ladder. That never gets old.
It's so great. I love them both. I love Seth Green's line deliveries throughout the movie. Like when they rush to the airport, they just skip the whole line and they're like, "Who's next?" They're like, "We're next." He's like, "You were not next." And Seth Green's like, "You call me a liar?" Like he has great line deliveries throughout.
I
Like,
ain't
where the
calling
hell
you a
is the
truther.
airport? Or like when they're trying to rent a car, he's like, "Is this your license?" He's like, "Yeah." "Where was it licensed?" "In Guam."
I like the part when the cop slows down when he's chasing them, and then Seth Green goes, "That's because he knows you don't mess with us."
That you're right. That's the best line in the whole movie because it makes no. They think the cop stopped racing because he was like, "Oh, it's Seth Green and his brother in that car. I can't mess with them."
In reality, the cops just lost his gas because it was siphoned out by Nick and his new girlfriend. I forget what's the girl's name, but they siphoned his gas and he ran out of gas trying to chase Seth Green.
For sure. And like another thing with the brothers, which you already mentioned, was like his botched tongue piercing, which for my parents was like a great opportunity at propaganda to be like, see, that's why you shouldn't get a tongue piercing. And like I totally bought into it. I was like, oh, they're right. I don't want to sound like that fucking idiot.
If you haven't seen the movie, this is kind of a spoiler, so you can fast forward like a minute or so. But Seth Green is the one who actually won. If you want to get down to brass tacks, he's the one that's key, was in the locker, he opened it up, and he opened it. I don't care that he didn't win the money, but I just have to say Seth Green won. It's true. It's what I believe. He won the rat race.
You're right. He opened the locker. Enrico got there first, but he fell asleep at the wheel. He didn't open the locker. Seth Green stuck his key in, opened it himself, and then he lost it all.
And it's a great shot too because he's like the shortest one, and they're all crowded around him. He's like, money, you know.
The next characters introduced after them are Whoopi Goldberg and her long lost daughter that she put up for adoption, who are meeting for the first time at a casino hotel in Las Vegas for some reason. But these characters are probably the most underutilized in my opinion. I don't feel like their dynamic gets enough work in it. They have fun scenes together where they do like these outrageous things, but I wish their characters were just a little like more prominent.
Yeah, me too. I really like Whoopi Goldberg's character. It might be my favorite Whoopi Goldberg spot in a movie that I think I could even recall. There might be movies I haven't seen, but she is so funny, especially in the beginning scenes where they're like, "Oh, it's probably a scam." She goes, "Ooh, a scam. Let's do it." And she's always so nice too. Like her like friendliness is part of her comedy. Like even with the squirrel lady, she's like, "Here, take this for a squirrel. Feed the squirrels." She's like, "Thank you," and she takes the bag. Like she's just nice to everyone, and her daughter's the exact opposite. She's just rude to everyone. Just wants to get to the point. Get to the point. Get to the point.
I agree with you about Whoopi Goldberg's niceness being a fun part of her character. Like you mentioned with the squirrel lady, like the squirrel lady's like totally insane. She's like talking for the squirrels. She's like, "What's your name, pretty lady?" And Whoopi Goldberg is just very like happy. She's like, "Vera." Yeah, the squirrel lady bit is great. She's just a fucking random lady just on the side of the street selling squirrels for no reason, played by an Academy Award winning actress. Yet again, this movie's got so many Oscar winners in it showing up for just random bits of comedy. And she's a total psychopath. She's apparently murdered several people because she sends them off a cliff into a pile of cars where there are just skeletons lying around with the bag of squirrel food.
Bro, she's a serial killer, dude.
It's her
She
character
sent
from
like
Misery.
100 people to their demise. She's just she's gone from the winter biome. She's migrated to the desert of Vegas.
And then that leads to them going to, they're just wandering in the fucking desert at that point because their car is totaled, and they run into this presentation of a land rocket that they fucking just steal, and they fucking go faster than the speed of sound, and their fucking faces are rattling, and they're going the same speed as a fucking bullet right next to them.
Yeah, they're so dizzy
You
from the rocket. They're like, "Oh, we were on a rocket car." And the caretaker lady's like, "Oh, a rocket car. Oh, isn't that nice? Get on the bus. We're having mac and cheese tonight."
It was great. I loved it. So after the mother and daughter,
Yeah.
we get introduced to probably the slimiest character of the movie, which was John Lovitz and his family. And I love this character because he's just such a fucking asshole about everything.
I don't want to work at Home Depot.
He has the ideal American life. He's got a wife, he's got 2 kids, and he just fucking hates them. He wants nothing to do. As soon as they get to the hotel, he's immediately trying to get out of the room so he can gamble away all his money and probably like be rid of them.
Yeah, he is a total kind of scumbag. Especially, I think the most fucked up part is when he drugs his family. He gives them sleeping pills and milkshakes. I think that takes the cake. There are some other stuff. There are some other moments that are like goofy funny, like when he won't stop the car for his daughter to take a dump. Like that scene is top 5 moments of the whole movie. Is when her ass is out the window. She's like, "I hate you! I hate you!" It's like, "Don't worry, I'm turning up the radio, honey. Let it rip."
A jar? Girls don't pee in jars. Oh, I'm sorry. We need a jar and a funnel.
And then probably, I don't know, this might be your favorite part of the movie when they go to the Barbie museum, Klaus Barbie, the Nazi.
Oh my god, the Barbie museum. What I love about that scene is the 2 fucking guys hosting the tour. Apparently, I don't know how true this is, but I've read that like they both auditioned for this one role. It was supposed to be one role, and they just liked both of them so much that they cast both of them because they both have this different skinhead look. There's the bald one with the tattoos on his head, and then there's the skinny dorky one. But they both fit the neo-Nazi vibe that they were looking for, so they both got the role. And the skinny one, actually, I don't know if you know, he's the guy, he's Happy's first caddy from Happy Gilmore. This is his only other role I've seen him in.
I did not know that. Holy shit, I had no idea.
His 2 biggest claims to fame, being a caddy for the most famous Jew in Hollywood, and then playing a neo-Nazi in a comedy movie.
I think my top 5 moments of the movie got to be the 2 moments with Seth Green, and then other 2 slots would be the pooping scene and the scene where they steal Hitler's car when they accidentally drive into the veterans ceremony and his tongue is burnt and he gets up on stage. He's like, and he sounds like Hitler. And then the one veteran takes out his gun and tries to shoot him. That is so funny. The editing of that scene was timed so well. The whole build up to it was perfect. It was just a great joke that had a great build up and a huge payoff.
No, I agree, because it's just like such an absurd like concoction of events to come together for them to even build that scene. So first they have to go to the museum. Their car has to get clipped. They steal Adolf Hitler's personal car. They're still driving around with the fucking Nazi flags, the swastikas on the side of it. John Lovitz gets lipstick on his hand and he rubs it on the face of the wheel. He takes a cigarette lighter that flies into his mouth, burns his tongue, stops the car. His face hits the lipstick on the wheel, and then they crash into a veterans reunion. And then he gets up there and he starts fucking talking like Hitler. And the guy who shoots him is famed wrestler Gene LaBelle, who's fucking shooting his gun at him.
I didn't even know that.
That is probably the best like setup bit. Like there's a bunch of other outrageous moments in the movie, but that's like just perfect like writing as far as what happens to those characters.
Do you know his wife is voices Peggy Hill in King of the Hill.
I didn't know that. I know she's in Hocus Pocus though. I don't know. I only know her from that and Rat Race.
Yeah, that's what I know her from live action wise. But probably the thing that she's done that's the most successful and been seen by the most people is Peggy Hill on King of the Hill.
That's awesome. She's really funny. She's like an underrated part of this movie. She's got great moments, like when John Lovitz tries to abandon his family to go on the race. She's like, "You guys stay here. You go to David Copperfield," and she's like, "We'll go with you."
Or when she headbutts him.
I forgot about that, but that's great. She just fucking doesn't take his shit. I love her.
Yeah. And then the last but not least character. Who is it, Nick?
It is Enrico Polini from Napoli, Italy, played by the legendary Rowan Atkinson. He doesn't even get an introduction scene. All the characters like find these coins in the slot machine. We're introduced to all of them sequentially, and they all meet in this room. And then out of nowhere comes a fucking chaos machine who just opens the door and enters the story. We don't know where he came from. We don't know why he's in Las Vegas, but he just shows up, and it's great.
Look at this room. Have you seen this room?
Yes, we're in it.
And then, as soon as the rat race starts, he falls asleep in the hotel lobby, and he's gone for the next 45 minutes of the movie. You don't even see him.
He's got some of the best lines in the movie too, like when John Cleese comes in and he's explaining the concept of what he wants all of them to do for this race, and Nick is just like, "Oh, there was a gold rush in Silver City," and Rowan Atkins like, "Very good, Nick. I think he should be our captain."
My favorite bit with him is by far the scene where he meets up with Newman from Seinfeld. Newman hits him with the van, and then he's like, "I'm going to Silver City," and he goes, "Silver City, I can take you there. I got to be there in 5 hours. Hope you're okay. I have to drive very fast." And then Enrico's like, "Great."
I love him. And then they're like driving together, and he's just like singing R-E-S-P-E-C-T, and he's like singing the lyrics wrong. And then Wayne Newton has this face on him. He's like, "What the fuck is wrong with this guy?"
And then also the scene we quote all the time, when Newman's job is to transport organs for, emergency surgeries. And he's transporting a human heart. And a weird part of his character is that he has some kind of weird thing for organs. And he's like, "There's a heart in that ice chest. Do you want to look at it?" And then Enrico's like, "Are we allowed?" And he's like, "It's a heart. It needs fresh air." Which makes no sense at all. It needs fresh air. If anything, that's going to make it rot.
He knows that he can say that to Enrico, and Enrico would just be like, "Okay." But even Enrico is like, "This guy's weird." They're both characters who think the other one is a total weirdo, and they're just stuck together in this van now, and it's awesome.
Yeah. And then they lose the heart. It flies out the window. And Enrico's like, "I think I found it." And then you hear Newman go, "No, that's a caramel apple." It's just a great sequence. But the heart part is definitely the best. Like, it needs fresh air. That never gets old.
I love him. Do you remember when I went to England and I sent you a picture of a Rowan Atkinson as Mr. Bean cutout? And I was like, "Dude, these are like in every fucking store in England." He's like the Rocky, because England is obsessed with Mr. Bean.
Well, he's a legend. I'm not surprised. He's very funny.
Let's also talk about the billionaire characters. John Cleese. The whole race is set up because John Cleese is like a major billionaire. He's like a Donald Trump figure. And he has
Yeah.
all these friends who just love gambling. And throughout the movie, they're shown gambling on the most like ridiculous things. Like his attorney, Mr. Grisham, just eats a piece of candy and he's like, "Coconut." And they're like, "Who had coconut?"
I like the scene with the hooker where he's like, we're gonna wear sailor hats. We're gonna take a bath in Pepto Bismol. I clip your toenails and you shave my buttocks. He was born without a personality.
Only $3,000 for the Pepto Bismol experience. She said. Do you think
You
that's
probably
worth
have to
it?
spend like $1,000 just filling the bathtub with Pepto Bismol.
I guess you're right. Yeah, and then they're like on the plane trying to fly to Silver City, and they tell the pilot to just fucking swerve as many times as possible to see who vomits first. And they're like, "Who had Mr. Chow?"
Yeah, he pukes in the bag. Those scenes are very great, very good. There's like always something happening. Like every scene we cut to, it never has to start a scenario. It's like there's always something going on. Like which is very important, especially when you're trying to remake Mad, 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 Mad World, because those are the vibes for that movie the whole 3 hours. You know, there's always something moving. There's always characters that are stuck in a certain situation. They never have to set something up when we cut to them. They're always in the middle of a debacle, which is important to keep the movie rolling, I think.
Definitely, I agree. It's always cutting to something new that's interesting, that's weird, that's funny. As a kid, for me, the funniest scene, which you already mentioned, was the hot air balloon and the fucking cow. Because it has two of my favorite characters. It has a cow, and the cow is flying in the air balloon, and they're like holding onto the cow. They're spraying milk in each other's faces. It's just ridiculous. As a child, it's perfect comedy.
Yeah. Also, it would be a sin if I didn't do this on the podcast. Sylvester! Sylvester! Maybe we should do that someday.
I'll watch it again because I've only seen it the one time.
Just a whole Mad, 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 Mad World episode. We actually tried finding the locations too, but there wasn't much to see.
A lot of it took place in LA in the 60s, and LA has drastically changed over time, become more populated, more roads are fucking built all the time. So just so many things are just gone. Like I remember hearing about Toto the dog from Wizard of Oz had like his own little grave site, and they just fucking bulldozed over it to build a highway. And I'm like, no, that's Toto.
Did they dig him up and rebury him?
I don't know.
Wow, that's fucked up if they didn't. But dude, the Three Stooges, the staircase that we found from the Three Stooges, that was like the coolest thing. Oh, that's like almost 100 years old now, and it looks exactly the same. I had so much fun looking at that and running up the stairs. I watched that episode on VHS like my whole childhood. That was always one of my favorite episodes. And there's so many other episodes that I love where there's no chance of going to where they filmed. But that one episode, an ache in every steak, you could literally go there and just reenact it if you wanted to.
You know, I'm glad you had fun there because I did not have fun there. I remember climbing up those stairs and being like, this is how I fucking die. This is the worst thing I've ever done in my entire life. I was like dying in the LA heat. Those are the most like fucking impossible stairs to climb. It's so fucking like,
they're like straight up, dude. Imagine being the Three Stooges, bro. They had to run up and down it 100 times probably.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Curly. He did the most running of all of them.
They probably just drove to the top. I don't think they
to go all the way around. That would have sucked. But yeah, that was cool. Back to Rat Race though. So we pretty much talked about every character. Are there any scenes that we didn't mention yet that you want to bring up, or you think we covered all the main scenes? Like we could finish with the finale, of course. We have a lot to say about the finale.
I think we can move on to the finale. I don't think there's any real bits we missed out on. But so I remember when my parents first showed me this movie, they were like, as a huge Shrek fan, they were like, just wait till the ending. And then, of course, they're all chasing down the money, which has gotten caught in the hot air balloon. They end up at a Smash Mouth concert with fucking 10,000 people in attendance cheering them on. As a kid, I was like, no way, Smash Mouth is in this movie? That's so cool. And then I thought, like, oh my God, are they going to do the song? Referring to All Star, and it's like, of course they're gonna do the song. It's the most popular song in the entire world at this point, and it ends with them performing All Star. because that's the best way to end a movie in 2001.
I can't argue with that. It's cool to see them all crowd surfing, but I'll say when comparing the movie specifically to Mad 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 World, I'd say this has to be the weakest part. Like the finale to Mad 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 World is 100 times better than the finale of Rat Race. It's just very corny and cheesy, and it's just not nearly as good. But I still enjoy it because we love All Star, of course. But it's very like, oh, it's for charity, you know.
I agree. I think the ending is far too sappy given all the psychotic shit we see every character do. Like this movie needs to end with them all going to prison the same way Mad Mad World ends with them all with broken bones in the hospital because they're all terrible people.
Yeah,
All everyone in this movie should have been thrown in a jail cell.
yeah, dude. When Ethel Merman slips on the fucking banana peel, dude, huge pop. That has to be like one of the most stupid but hysterical moments in film history. Like, there's no reason it should be that funny, but it is. She comes in screaming, "You idiots!" Whoop! And then the old man, like his life is ruined, and then all of a sudden he starts to crack a smile, and he can't help but laugh, and it's just a beautiful way to end the movie.
It's a great ode to comedy. Like you have multiple comedy legends appearing throughout the movie, like the Three Stooges and Buster Keaton. And so to end the movie on just a banana peel slip, just the original like joke maybe, it's just great.
Yeah, definitely. The Three Stooges kind of got robbed. When I was a kid and I saw on the DVD, oh, the Three Stooges are in it. I got so excited. They really only get like 1 second of screen time. It's still like I'm grateful that they were in it and they got to be on screen, of course. But maybe they could have had a line or done like a little bit of slapstick or like even like a 30-second sequence. But it's whatever. I'm just nitpicking at that point. But the Buster Keaton scene, like he got a whole big scene where he got to like, do his physical comedy stuff. Like he's like trying to push the car and stuff. And I didn't think that it was really landing the same way it used to when he was in black and white, to be honest. But it was still cool to see him. Obviously, physical comedy legend and amazing stuntman. That silent era with the stuntmen, if you actually like research it and read all about all the shit they did and the safety precautions that they had, pretty much zero. They were just out there making history. Pretty freaking awesome. And they got hurt a lot.
No, I believe you. Some of those fucking things are just incredible to watch because there's just no hiding what they're doing. They're like actually doing like so much of the shit in those old things, and it's just crazy to watch. Like you can't even believe they actually like went through with that.
Big inspiration for Jackie Chan. I did like a project in my history class once about like historical figures that made like an impact on modern day artists. And I did Buster Keaton inspiring Jackie Chan, and I showed my class videos of him like reenacting like certain skits from the silent era, like the when the house falls on Buster Keaton. Jackie Chan does a similar thing where a billboard falls on him. He also reenacted like Charlie Chaplin's roller skating bit, except he stepped it up a notch. He was roller skating on the highway, holding on to the back of a car, going like 70. Like he did a lot of really gnarly stuff. Oh, he did the Harold Lloyd clock fall, but he actually let go. Harold Lloyd was holding onto the clock in that famous scene, and then Jackie Chan just let go of the clock and fell down like 2 stories. But the only thing to break his fall were the awnings hanging over the side of the building, and that doesn't really break your fall that much.
I feel like the only person we have now keeping the killing yourself for movies tradition alive is Tom Cruise because he's like always in every Mission
Yeah.
Impossible. He's like, I want to fucking do something that'll kill me, and they're like, Tom, no, and he just doesn't. He drives off a fucking mountain cliff.
Leo in the Revenant was pretty crazy too. I remember hearing some gnarly stories about that movie.
I still haven't seen it. I should watch it. I didn't know it was that dedicated to realism.
Yeah, he actually jumped in like freezing cold rivers and stuff to make that movie. Like it's pretty gnarly. I wouldn't say it's as crazy as some of the Tom Cruise stunts, of course, but he definitely did some stuff that he could have died doing. I don't even think the movie's that good. And like it's definitely like an Oscar kind of movie. Like they made it to try and get an Oscar. I've only seen it once, and I never felt the need to go back and watch it. It almost feels like kind of like one of those torture porn movies. Like he's just like in pain and like suffering and trying to survive for like 2 hours, like crawling around with fatal wounds, just trying to survive. There's just not a lot of enjoyment in it for me. It's not a bad movie. It's just like it's not fun to watch, you know?
Maybe if Leo fought a real bear, like the legendary Daniel Bryan has fought real bears many times, maybe it'd be a movie
Yeah.
worth seeing then.
Yeah, definitely. Rat Race. Back to Rat Race. I just have to say real quick, I almost forgot. This was a DVD rotation movie for me. I watched it all the time as a child. We had it in the car on our portable DVD player. This is officially a DVD rotation movie. I think there's only been one movie we've covered that hasn't been one, so that's pretty surprising. And we did an episode about Avatar, so that's not possible to be a DVD rotation, but we're like 5 for 6, I think.
No, same for me. I watched this movie a million times as a kid. It was one of our car movies. We just had it in the car. Our fucking DVD box of it is so fucked up now because we didn't take care of our DVDs. We just left them in the car and people like stepped on them and like the bottom is like broken. It's like coming off of it. That DVD is scratched.
Well, it's not worth anything, so it's no big deal. I feel like the only DVDs that I have that are a little bit fucked up are the Harry Potter ones, because the first two, the Chamber of Secrets and the Sorcerer's Stone, they came in like paper boxes. Like they're made of like paper. Like it wasn't the traditional plastic. And they're nice. Like they fold open and everything, but paper wears out just by using it, you know? Or like parchment or whatever. So they were trying to go with like the Harry Potter style with the box, but it wasn't made to last.
Yeah, I hate those box sets. Did you ever get any of those DVDs that were like full series and they're like the like paper thin DVD covers? I hate those things.
Yeah, I hate those too. The worst box set I ever had was Star Trek, the original series. There was a plastic shell for each season, and you had to crack open the shell. Then you take out a square that was like the thickness of like the size of like a CD, but stacked like this big. And each like shell would peel open to get the next disc for that season. There would probably be like 4 or 5 discs per season. And I just thought it was so unnecessary to have to crack open a plastic shell, peel open the discs, pop them out. And it wasn't easy to pop out. It always felt like I was going to break the disc pulling it out.
That sounds bizarre. I can't even visualize what you're talking. That just sounds so weird. How is that a thing?
I'll send you a picture.
Sell to people? I need to see it.
Yeah, I have no idea. Anything else that you want to talk about as far as Rat Race? I feel like we pretty much covered the whole movie.
I love this movie. I think this is a movie. It's almost 2 hours long and it breezes by. That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh man, this is 2 hours. Like I have a headache. I don't know if I want to watch it. It just breezes by. It's such an easy watch for me. It's a movie that I'm going to watch for the rest of my life, that I'm going to show to other people. I think it's super enjoyable, and it's definitely one of my favorite movies for that reason.
Me too. I can't argue with anything you just said.
Just a great cast of characters, great moments, great like line deliveries, great stunts too. It's just a blast. I think it's an underrated movie. I don't like to say that too often, but like this is like an underrated movie. I wish more people gave it a chance.
Yeah, that phrase is thrown around a little bit too much, but I know exactly what you mean. This is definitely, truly an underrated movie. I've heard people say like Stranger Things is underrated.
Most popular Netflix series of all time.
Underrated. But yeah, this one definitely checks that box.
Well, that's Rat Race. If you've never seen it, go watch it. You'll have a good time.
Thank you for everyone who's made it this far to the end of the podcast. I really appreciate you listening. Stay tuned next Friday for another episode of Goblin Talk, and then the following Friday for another episode of the MMF podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.